Hey, do buckaroos, how the heck are you? This is Tom, the Beer Whisperer. I thought I'd run this episode, segment, video, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be, I've got 3 stouts I'm going to do. Mother's Winter Grind, Tallgrass Vanilla Bean Buffalo Sweat Oatmeal Cream Stout, and the Four Hands Bonafide Imperial Stout. And I'm going to talk about those stouts, and I'm going to also kind of ramble on a bit about music. That's what I'm going to do for this particular segment. 6% 18 IBUs. Sip away the season with Mother's Winter Grind. We've combined the smooth, rich goodness of a stout with our cold brewed espresso blend, roasted for us by our coffee-loving neighbors at the Mud House, which is a local coffee joint. So what I have here is a local craft brewery with a local craft, for lack of a better word, a coffee house. So there you go. Beautiful color. It pours beautiful, as you can see. It's got that nice jet black, kind of a mocha-esque head. The aromas are gorgeous. You know, the odd thing is I'm 50 years old. That's not odd. Well, it's odd that I've made it to 50, but that's a whole other video altogether. The odd thing is that I'm 50 and I've never been a coffee drinker, really. Up until recently, I guess, over the last few years. Seamus kind of liked coffee every once in a while, so we started buying good coffee beans. And we tried the other stuff like everybody else did, the automatic drip stuff. We just didn't work for us. But there were certain coffee beans that he liked, so we got a little grinder. We ground them ourselves. We had a little French press, and we just kind of made our own good coffee. Wife and I don't drink a lot of coffee, but we tend to drink coffee just on the weekends. You know, I make a good pot, for lack of a better word, again with the French press, and like I said, I keep good coffee beans on hand. But I don't drink coffee every day. I'm not one of those one pot or 10 cup a day kind of drinkers. On the weekends I'll have 2, maybe 3 cups, and so I guess I went a long way around the barn to let you know that I'm not an expert on coffee in any way whatsoever. It's only recently that I've become even somewhat knowledgeable about it. But this has a beautiful coffee aroma, and there's some slight spice coming out at the end too, almost some cayenne-like notes. It's not spicy, don't get me wrong, it doesn't taste spicy, but I'm kind of feeling that coffee and some cayenne notes. Yeah, babe. The result is a big, rich, beautiful, dark stout that has these just big coffee overtones all the way through it. Whereas if I was drinking traditional stout, I'd get some coffee, I'd get some chocolate, many times predominant flavor in a traditional stout. But you're going to get some of those big, deep roasted malt notes. A lot of times you'll get some big black barley, that kind of things, whatever's in there. And this particular stout, I do feel that rich malt, and I do feel some chocolate notes, really as an undertone. But the star of the show, obviously, for this particular stout, because it's called Mother's Winter Grind, it is a coffee stout. It is the coffee that is the star of the show. I don't know if you're not a coffee stout lover, I don't know if this one's going to convert you, because it's huge, it's in your face. But if you are a coffee stout lover, this should be one of your favorites, because it is in your face. It is great big, it is huge, it is massive, man. Oh yeah, babe. So I've been kind of relaxing today, just taking her easy, but listening to some on our TV service. We have a iHeartRadio app, so I get to listen to some stations, right? So I can listen to KLOS that I grew up with as a kid in California. I grew up in Southern California, by the way. I'm in Missouri now. But I can also listen to KC out of St. Louis, which is a great classic rock station, among other stations I've got programmed in there, and I kind of like that. But I want to talk about a band that's kind of been somewhat obscured, or it kind of seems like an obscure band these days, I guess, might be a better way to put that, is Foghat. Foghat kind of gets laughed at these days, and it really bothers me, because they shouldn't be. They're kind of thought of thought of as a a two-song band. You you hear all the only songs the radio stations want to play are Slow Ride and Fool for the City, and they kind of get laughed at as kind of a joke of a band, but they really weren't. Back in the 70s, there were a small handful of good blues rock bands. Foghat was one of them. Another one that comes to mind is Humble Pie. Another band, a kind of an unsung hero rock band in my opinion. But for what I want to talk about now is Foghat. Their live album was great, and another song that gets some minor airplay as sometimes a deep cut, which irritates the crap out of me, is I Just Want to Make Love to You. This band had tons of hits, man. Maybe not commercial hits, but they had tons of songs that were on radio back in the day. This was an arena rock band that people went to see to hear a lot of songs, and not just those two. So it kind of pisses me off that they're just kind of known for those two. And these were great musicians. They're kind of looked at now as not being that, and they really were. Their sound was tight. They knew what they were doing. Price was a great slide player. Oh, wow, this beer's outstanding. Stone Blue was kind of a minor hit in the late 70s. I remember even hearing it at junior high dances. It might not have, I don't know how far up the chain it went, to be honest with you, because I think pop music is a joke. It's always been a joke. And that's the thing about rock and roll, man. Rock and roll wasn't about pop hits. It wasn't about top 40. It was about album sales, man. Stone Blue was a great song, great album. They did a great version of Driving Wheel, which back when I was a kid, when I was 13, 14, got airplay. Nowadays, nobody even remembers they did that. They did a version of Burning Down the House that was brilliant. And now if you hear Burning Down the House, it's by the Talking Heads. See, that kind of shit just irritates me. Boogie Motel, maybe not their best album, but there was, it kind of showed that there was a point where they started going more commercial, and that was really it. There were some horns or some other things going on. I still like the song Boogie Motel. Somebody's Been Sleeping in My Bed, again, a minor hit at the time, a song that's now been forgot about. So I guess my greater point is, if there is one, is to cut him some slack, man. Give him a break. This wasn't a two-song band as top 40 listeners want to brand them as these days. And don't listen to folks that just want to say things like that because they think that makes them sound hip. Pay attention to the past. Look for albums from these guys. Some of their early stuff, I gotta admit, their 80s stuff was kind of a lot of crap. And it sucked. But their early stuff, their early blues rock stuff was brilliant and should be paid attention to. This is Tom the Beer Whisperer. I'll be back with my next stout. Well, how do you do, buckaroos? For my second installment, you may notice I changed my shirt. I had a butt on the smoker, and I got some butt rub on my shirt, so I changed my shirt. Anyways, that's so personal. So let's move on. So I've got the Tallgrass Vanilla Bean Buffalo Sweat, 5%, 20 IBUs. Buffalo Sweat from Tallgrass is a very nice oatmeal cream stout. The vanilla bean version, though, for me is gorgeous, and I'm having it here, but I've had it before. I did a written review on it the other day, so I know what I'm going to be tasting here. But as you can see, it just pours beautifully. Nice color with a beautiful head there. The last time I actually had the regular Buffalo Sweat, it actually felt a little too sweet for me. Not that anything's wrong with it, mind you, and I honestly think it's not them. I think it's not them, it's me kind of thing. I think it's my taste buds have changed over the years. It feels sweet. It is a very well put together oatmeal cream stout, but for me the vanilla bean version is just incredible because that vanilla off sweats some of that sweetness, and that's what makes it work. The aroma's gorgeous. I do get some chocolate, I get a little coffee, I get a whole lot of vanilla, along with some sweet, big, dark malt, or big sweet. Sometimes I say things backwards. I don't know what I'm doing, man. And I dribble. See that? Oh, man. I hate it when that happens. I'm going to change my shirt again. So I forgot. Every once in a while I get somebody comment that I'm trying to kind of revamp my format a little bit, because every once in a while I get somebody comment that I didn't review the beer. Nowhere in my description does it say Beer Whisperer Beer Reviews. It says Drinking with the Beer Whisperer. Yes, I will try to give you tasting notes, but that is not always my priority. Sometimes I'm just turning on the camera and I'm talking. My thing has always been commentary. That is always what I wanted to do. Just have a conversation with you, like a pub conversation. If we were all in a pub together, this is what we'd be talking about. I will talk about some tasting notes, but I'm not doing a beer review. If that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a straightforward, straight ahead beer review, I'm not your guy. There's 100 million folks out there that are doing that, and there's a small handful of really good ones if you're paying attention. The vanilla in this really is what, obviously, it is the vanilla bean version of the vanilla bean makes. Again, for me, the regular version is a little sweet. The vanilla here just kind of offsets that sweetness a little bit. It's just beautiful. I started with a 60-degree day here, and I'm still wearing shorts and a no-sleeve shirt, and I'm not really cold, but it's cool enough where a stout is enjoyable at this particular junction. And I'm trying to get these videos in before I run out of daylight, because it's been getting dark here since the time change. It gets dark like at 5:30 here, so, which is brilliant. Who doesn't love that? So anyways, we're talking a little bit about music and beer for this particular episode, for lack of a better word. Is that I was talking about Foghat earlier, how I think that's an underrated band, but I want to talk about a band that isn't underrated, and that is the Beatles. For me, the Beatles, I've known some folks say the Beatles are the greatest band of all time. Some folks say they were overrated. I'm not going to get into that aspect of that argument. What I want to talk about, I can't think of another band that has had a journey like the Beatles. And what I mean by that is that I can't think of another rock band that started as a pop band and became a rock band. They were basically a top 40 band, man. Their early stuff, they were knocking and cranking out top 40 hits. And they became, at the very end, was a cutting-edge rock band. It would be as if Pink Floyd was a pop band and somehow became Pink Floyd. The Beatles were, Love Me Do, and they became, I Am the Walrus. It was a journey for them. They became, I can't think of another band that had. It would be like if the Knack had their first album, the Knack, and then somehow came up with something as groundbreaking as the White Album. Of course, that never happened. The only band that's ever done something like that is the Beatles. And not everything they did was a top 40 hit. And not everything they did at the time was well received. And that's the point I'm trying to make is a lot of their stuff became impressive many years later. A lot of the stuff they did at the time was thought of as being odd and didn't really fit with what they were doing. But as the White Album, for instance, over time the White Album became the White Album. I mean, it is sheer brilliance and nothing short of. And I can't think of anybody else in the modern music era that started out doing top 40 tunes and became such a respected rock act. I can't think of anybody else that has done that. Now, there are other musical acts, other rock bands that have had journeys where their sound changed over time. That's not necessarily unusual, but what's unusual is to have that success as a pop act. I think a lot of people miss the point when I say that. Is I'm talking about the number of top 42s they cranked out, and they just became a rock band. Nobody else. It would be as if One Republic all of a sudden became a serious known band. Like that's ever going to happen, right? I hope that pissed off a few people because I meant to. Yeah, that's the point, right? I mean, they went from Love Me Do to the White Album. How many other rock bands can you say had that same musical journey? The answer is zero. Many bands have changed and evolved over the years. That is not unusual, but to have that journey that the Beatles had as basically, a 13-year-old girl band to a respected rock act, that's a whole different journey. So anyways, I hope I irritated a whole bunch of people with those thoughts. Because I meant to, man. Let's talk about the beer a little bit. I might have had this a little colder than it ought to be to start with, because as it warms up, you really get more of those big roasted malt flavors. The vanilla in this, though, being the vanilla bean version of, it really is the star again. It doesn't... The problem with a lot of vanilla beers is sometimes it becomes cloying. It becomes too much. What this one does right is the vanilla is all the way through, but it never becomes distracting, or it never lets you get distracted from the other stout flavors. I'm not sure the right way to say that, but I think I'm hoping you understand what I'm getting at. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I didn't get any on you. Yeah, sometimes the vanilla becomes too much and it drowns out those other flavors. In this particular beer, the vanilla is always present. It's always there. You always know it's there, but it never quite takes over everything else. So, oh, there we go. I had another one stuck, but sorry to get it. Excuse me, please. Hope I didn't get any on you. All right, I got one more stout to get to. This Town Beer Whisperer. I'll be back. Well, howdy do. I'm desperately trying to get one more segment in before I run out of daylight. It got dark real fast here all of a sudden. I got about 5 minutes, I think, to get this sucker before I get all dark. So my last stout is a big one, and it should be for the last one. For the finale. The finale should always be bigger. The Bonafide Russian Imperial Stout. Stout with coffee and vanilla beans from Four Hands. It is 9%. It's a big monster. This is the first time I've had it this year. Oh, good God almighty, that smells good. Big coffee on the nose. You do certainly get some vanilla. I get a whole lot of big black barley thing going on there. Oh, yeah. 9%. It hides that well because this thing is just velvety smooth. And I think a lot of these big beers, they tend to be... they tend to feel harsh, so they're big and they hit your palate hard. This one doesn't. This one just velvet all the way down. Little chocolate, little coffee, some vanilla. It's a total package, baby. I've been talking about music throughout this stout segment. I started with the Mother's Winter Grind. Have the bottle here somewhere. Coffee stout. Then I moved on to the Tallgrass Vanilla Bean Buffalo Silhouette, which is a oatmeal cream stout. Now I have an Imperial stout. So I've really done 3 different types of stouts. Not only 3 stouts, but 3 different types. I've also been talking some about music here. In the first bit, I talked some about Foghat, how I thought they were an underrated, underappreciated band. I also talked about the Beatles, how I thought a lot of times I don't think their journey is really appreciated. Now I'm just going to talk about music in general. Shit I like, man. No, I've always been kind of a music guy, but like most folks of my generation, I'm 50 years old, so like most folks of my generation, I've always kind of felt music, but I guess my first love was sports, because you do what your dads do. You know, my dad watched a lot of sports, so I watched a lot of sports with my dad. I did listen to more music than most kids my age early on, because I had older siblings. My oldest brother was in the Navy when I was about 5, 6, 7 years old. And he would send back 8 tracks. That's how old I am. That's how old he is, anyways. So I was listening to music that not typical 5, 6, 7-year-olds were listening to. You know, well, he was sending back Three Dog Night and early Elton John before he was a pop guy, and you know, Jimi Hendrix and the Who live at Leeds, and this was the stuff I was listening to at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. But you know, I was also big into sports. I guess it was probably right about at 13. You know, obviously I didn't have a lot of talent for sports, let's just say. Although I love baseball, football I've always been kind of okay. It's all right. It's there. Yeah, but baseball was always my sports love. I just didn't have the talent for it. I love the game, and I understand it. I think it's a sport I could coach. It's not a sport I could play as much as I love the game. I just don't have that athletic ability. But it was right about that, you know, between 12 and 13 when I went from, you know, buying baseball cards to spending all my money on albums, just like that. And it wasn't, you know, it was kind of a gradual process. I really started about 10, kind of shifting to albums. But it was right about 13 when it became all about the music, you know. I remember being 10 years old and buying, you know, Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic, and that was the album for me. That was wow. You know, that was a turning point where all my other friends were listening to the Bay City Rollers. I was cranking this, and how about this? You know, I even had some friends that started listening to Kiss. You know, and I'm not knocking Kiss, but you know, they were basically a glam band. Let's not make more of them than what they are. Aerosmith, I mean, that was some serious rock and roll in 1975, man. And a lot of folks, and again, I'm not knocking the band per se, Kiss, but you know, a lot of folks were into Kiss because they were trendy at the time. I've never been a trendy guy. I've never followed trends in any way whatsoever. So I mean, but for me, Aerosmith was that one band that just kind of went wow for me. And then I remember also, I think I was about 12. I might have been 12 or 13. I think, I can't remember which. Maybe 14. I can't remember. 79, maybe, when that came out. 79. Gosh, the mind plays tricks on you. I think I was about 14 actually when Elvis Costello Armed Forces came out, which is a whole different thing, right? And I remember the first time I heard Goon Squad, I think, holy crap! And so I went out and bought the album, right? And I brought it to all my friends' house to listen to, and nobody got it. You know, I mean, you know, Senior Service, Goon Squad. How could you not think those songs were great? Oliver's Army, and nobody got it, man. I'm thinking, oh man, I was on my own. I was on my own. But that was my musical journey. You don't have to agree with everything your friends do. I was always a little bit different. I was always a big kind of hard rocker, but I never liked. I guess I always like things a little bit different. You know, Elvis Costello for me was just amazing. I just loved what he was doing at the time. As you can see, my backdrop, all of a sudden it just got dark as hell, man. So I'm gonna do one quick. As I've let this sit a little bit, this beer is big. It's viscous, but I don't know if it really feels like it's 9%. It can sneak up on you. The flavors are big, though. You get, as I'm letting it sit here, it is become more in your face. The coffee, the black barley, the vanilla. Everything is just big about this beer. There's also a lot of chocolate mixed in, all of those things. It's one of those, I guess it runs about $10 a bottle. Is it worth it? Yes. Is it a buy again? Yes, I bought it several times. And you're getting to where you can't see me anymore, so I'm going to wrap this up. This time to Beer Whisper. I'll talk to you later.